I suppose we should rather start the presentation. So our today's topic for IFRS presentation is IFRS 6, that is exploration for and evaluation of mineral resources. IFRS 6, that is exploration for and evaluation of mineral resources, has the effect of allowing entities adopting the standard for the first time to use accounting policies for exploration and evaluation assets that were applied before the adoption of IFRS. It is also modifying the impairment testing of exploration and evaluation assets by introducing different impairment indicators and allowing the carrying amount to be tested at an aggregate level. The impact of IFRS, that is the International Financial Reporting Standards, has been felt extensively in the exploration industry, particularly the oil and gas industry, where key dilemmas and judgments made are the greatest at the exploration and production stage. At one end, IFRS 6, that is exploration for and evaluation of mineral resources, has introduced certain issues for the industry, while at the other hand, IFRS standards is shifting the boundaries of cash generating units down to the level as small as a group of retailing assets under IAS 36 impairment of assets. Now, extraction, evaluation, exploration of mineral resources. Of course, not many people are aware about these industries. So before we get forward on this IFRS, it is very important for us to understand that which part of the whole process of mineral resource generation does IFRS 6 looks at. So just I'll be taking you through a small process. The whole mineral resources generation is actually divided under 5 parts. The first is the geoscience, then there is mineral exploration, there is a mine development process involved, mine operation and mine closure. So my mineral resource exploration and evaluation, IFRS 6 deals with only this part, mineral resources exploration and evaluation. Only this part of my whole mineral resources generation, only this part is concerned, I am concerned with when I am talking about IFRS 6. So if I am talking about mineral exploration part under the process of mineral resources generation, geologist, geophysicist, prospector are the experts that I'll be hiring for. These are the studies that I'll be conducting, and I will be accounting that cost of the experts or of the study conducted and so on. There are various costs that are assigned to it. We'll be looking down at them in the forward slides. So these are the studies, these are the costs that I'll be assigning to them, but only which are concerned with the second process, that is mineral exploration. Exploration and evaluation of the mineral resources actually means the search of mineral resources, which includes mineral, natural gas, other non-regenerative resources, after the entity has actually obtained the legal rights to explore in a specific area. Look, natural resources and my other assets, let me just differentiate it between them. My natural resources or mineral resources generation and the other assets are very different. For example, if I need to purchase a headquarter building for my organization, that would be an asset for me. I would look out for a building, I would look out for a seller, I'm going to purchase that building, account for that under assets into my balance sheet. It is as simple as that. But when I'm talking about this mineral resource generation, I cannot go around at any place on within the country or any place over the world and start digging out for resources. There is a set procedure to follow. I require a license, just like when you enter a food industry, you need a food license. Similarly, you need to obtain legal rights, licenses for extraction, exploration of natural resources uh, of within the country. The laws are different in different countries. Like China has different laws, India has different laws of mining, and so on and so forth. So there are different laws, but I need to obtain the legal rights. So obtaining the legal rights, after I've obtained the legal rights to explore within a specific area, only after that, whatever cost I am assigning will be assigned to the exploration and the evaluation of mineral resources. But before the extraction, I have explored and evaluated. After that, the next thing comes is this mine development, mine operation. These are a part of the extraction activities. IFRS 6 only looks at mineral exploration. So exploration and evaluation expenditures are expenditures that are incurred in connection with the exploration and evaluation of mineral resources before the technical feasibility and commercial viability of extracting a mineral resource is demonstrable. Accounting for extracting activities or extractive activities has been identified by the IASB as a topic for a further standard, and hence it is not covered under IFRS 6. Now let's come down to the scope. As I have told you, IFRS 6 only applies to the exploration and evaluation expenditures. That is, to the expenditures that are incurred by an entity in connection with the exploration and evaluation of mineral resources. And like natural gas and oil and so on, there are various other. And affected activities that include the search for mineral resources. IFRS 6 does not address other aspects of accounting by entities that are engaged in the exploration of evaluation of mineral resources. Entity shall not apply the IFRS to the expenditures incurred before the exploration for an evaluation of mineral resources and after the technical feasibility and commercial viability of extracting a mineral resource are demonstrable. So the scope only applies to the exploration evaluation expenditures. It does not takes into account the accounting policies, changes, frameworks of the entities that are engaged in them. It do not provides any policies for the entities that are engaged in them. It only considers the exploration and evaluation activities, and only expenditures that are assigned to that are incurred under that, they are looked upon by IFRS 6. And of course, since only these expenditures are looked upon, the other two are very simple, that exploration and evaluation of any expenditure that is incurred before this cannot be looked upon by IFRS 6, and I do not need to classify it under these heads. And anything that is done after the evaluation exploration is completed, the next step is extraction. So any cost that is assigned to the extraction of mineral resources also cannot be accounted under that. There is a very small line of difference between the costs that are associated with exploration and cost that is associated for extraction. Sometimes it happens the entities uses the same kind of labor, same people for the extraction activities also. There are activities that are used in them also. So there are various common errors that people do, and they are not as per the IFRS standards, and it can have material misstatements, and you can have complications and implications of that also. Recognition and measurement. Now we have seen what are the activities that are covered. Now how am I going to recognize and measure for those costs and activities? when when the costs are first recognized in the balance sheet, exploration and evaluation assets are required to be measured at cost. It is recognized also at cost and measured also at cost. These are few of the examples. This is not an exhaustive list. It is just some of the expenditures that are incurred while exploration and evaluation stage is going on. There can be other costs also, but these are something that are incurred every time if I am exploring for a mineral resource. Like acquisition of rights to explore, topographical, geological, geochemical, geophysical kind of studies. I have exploratory drilling, trenching, sampling, activities that are in relation to evaluating the technical feasibility and commercial viability of extracting the mineral resources. This is just the evaluation of that feasibility and viability. You cannot put it under the extraction costs or extraction activities, because this is done at the time of exploration and evaluation. Now, as I told you, this list is not exhaustive. Other directly attributable cost, if you have a certain attributable cost that can be attributed to this stage of my mineral resource generation, then of course you have a judgment, you have explanations reasonable enough to attribute that costs to this part of my exploration and evaluation of mineral resources. They can also be capitalized. Expenditures that are related to the development of mineral resources shall not be recognized as exploration and evaluation assets. Of course, we have seen anything that is attributable to the next three stages, that is development, mine development, any operation or something, they cannot be attributed to my expenditures related to the exploration and evaluation. The costs that are capitalized under IFRS 6 might not meet the conceptual framework definition of an asset, because, for example, the capitalization criteria followed might not require the demonstration of the present economic resources. So IFRS 6 therefore deems these costs to be assets. So there is a difference between my IFRS 6 asset classification and my normal asset classification. There is a basic difference in the conceptualization of my things. Whenever I am having an asset, usually they are as intangible or tangible assets. Even if there is an intangible asset, I can value it. But here in IFRS 6, as it only sees to the exploration and evaluation of mineral resources, so any cost that is directly attributable to this part of my natural resource or mineral resources generation is taken as my asset. That cost is deemed to be an asset. So there is a very big basic difference. You can have a difference, you can differ, distinguish between your concepts of your asset cost and the costs as that are deemed to be asset. My assets usually have cost, but IFRS 6 deems the costs of these activities that I'm doing as assets. Exploration and evaluation expenditure might therefore be capitalized earlier than would otherwise be the case under the conceptual framework. After recognition, entities can apply either the cost model or the revaluation model to exploration and evaluation of asset. So as I'm going forward, at some point of time, I'm going to get my asset. That is, I'm at one point of time, there'll be after my 5 stages or after my 4th stage, I am going to get mineral resource. Maybe if I'm dealing with an oil refinery or something, I'm going to get oil. If I have iron ore or bauxite, there are limestones, gypsum, these are various natural resources that are extracted. So at one point of time, I'm going to have an asset as an asset in my hand. So I can then recognize these costs by using my cost model or revaluation model, and I can assign that into my asset whenever I get it. Now, where the revaluation model is selected, the rules of IAS 16, that is property, plant and equipments, are applied to the exploration and evaluation assets classified as tangible assets. And the rules of IAS 38, that is intangible assets, are applied to those classified as intangible assets. Now it totally depends on you. If you are taking the revaluation model, you are classifying it as a tangible asset, because at some point of time you are going to have a tangible asset in your hand. You are going to use the IAS 16 for that. If you are using it as an showing it or assuming it, taking it to be an intangible asset, I can follow the rules of IAS 38. Now let's start. Let us first understand what was the scenario before IFRS 6 came, because IFRS 6 contains all the costs that are assigned, that can be attributed to the exploration and evaluation level of my mineral resource generation part. Most of the major entities in this sector use the successful efforts method or the full cost approach. Under the successful efforts method, where the costs were incurred in finding, acquiring, and developing reserves were classified and were capitalized on a field to field basis. On discovery of a commercially viable mineral reserve, capitalized costs were allocated to the discovery, and if in case discovery was not made, all those expenses were charged as expense in your P&L, and in that period in which you have actually incurred it, you showed it in your P&L account. This was the successful efforts. You can also take it as a hit and trial method. If I get it, costs are incurred anyway. If I get it, I'm going to capitalize my cost. If I do not get a commercially viable, the technical feasibility and etc. study are not positive, I'll charge that amount to the cost, that is an expense in my P&L for that period, and I'm going to show it under my expenses. Now, however, some companies used to follow the full cost approach, where all the costs were capitalized. So these were the two different approaches that were followed in the past. Without IFRS 6, without IFRS 6, many entities would have to change their practice of accounting for these costs. It would have forced them to fall back to the IASB conceptual framework or the standards issued by their respective national standard setters. But IFRS 6 makes the limited changes to the existing practice. IFRS 6 has not provided you with any method of doing the accounts. It hasn't provided you any particular method through which you should account in your books of accounts. This means that the fundamental principle of capitalization of exploration costs used by the majority of mining entities still remains. A principal purpose of IFRS 6 is to specify the circumstances in which entities should actually test exploration and evaluation costs for impairment, and when to require the disclosure of information of such assets. So IFRS 6 hasn't changed anything. It has just given you the best of all. It has provided you with the capitalization of the exploration cost. It is not telling you to follow a total new method for costing. It is just providing you that all those exploration and evaluation costs shall be capitalized. This is the only thing that is provided in the IFRS 6, nothing else. Let's come down to the accounting policies. A wide variety of accounting policies are followed by the entities that are engaged in the exploration and for an evaluation of mineral resources, ranging from deferring on the balance sheet nearly all the exploration and evaluation expenditures to recognizing all the expenditures in profit and loss as and when they are incurred. IFRS 6 does not require or prohibit any specific accounting policy for the recognition and measurement of exploration and evaluation assets. So if we look into it as parts of, as financial advisors or the financial people, or even the technical people who are working on the financial background, I would really suggest that this is the most simplest IFRSs of all, because it is not telling you to follow a specified path, a specified way of doing anything. It has just told you that this is what is required to be done. You can do it as and when, as you may think is fit as per your organization. IFRS 6 permits the entities to continue to use their existing accounting policies, provided there is a simple uh, provision that is given, provided that they comply with the paragraph 10 of IAS 8, that accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates and errors, that is, they result in information that is relevant and reliable. Only the information that you are providing in your reporting, in your reporting, in your financial statement should be relevant and reliable. It should not have material misstatements. Any entity that is accounting for its exploration and evaluation expenditure, either in accordance with the conceptual framework or with the exemptions that are permitted by IFRS 6. This allows an entity to apply an accounting policy for exploration and evaluation assets, which is relevant, reliable, even though the policy may not be in full compliance with the conceptual framework. Any entity, that is adopting IFRS 6 may continue to use the existing accounting policy that was applied immediately before the adoption of my IFRS. So whatever accounting policy that I am following, I can continue to follow that. I do not have to make specific changes as per my IFRS 6. Entities may change their accounting policies for exploration and evaluation expenditures if and only if the changes makes the financial statements more relevant to the economic decision makers and no less reliable, rather more reliable. Now, since there is a provision of IAS 8 paragraph 10, we need to understand that what is IAS 8 paragraph 10. IAS 8 para 10 explains that if there is an absence of a standard or an interpretation, I do not have a standard or an interpretation for a purpose that specifically applies to a transaction, any other event, similar event, or any condition that is similar to which I am facing, management is free to use, or rather management must use its own judgment in developing and applying an accounting policy, the results of which is presented in a reliable and relevant manner. So my IAS 8 para 10 actually tells me that if I do not have a standard to follow, no provision is given, no interpretation of that transaction or an event is given, like here. So my management can apply its own judgment, any knowledge that the judgment, the management has can be fitted into it. But the only thing is that whatever information, whatever judgment is applied, whatever information I'm providing, the management chooses to provide should be reliable and relevant. And there should be a faithful representation. The IASB or IFRSs have left it to the management. That really doesn't mean that you have the window of misinterpretation. You should provide faithful representation of all the economic substances. any information that can have my users to change the decision is economically important and material. And of course, whatever information which you are providing should be neutral. It should not show bias, so that my decision makers, so the stakeholders, shareholders, government, or whoever are the users of my information, they should not be the information should not be presented in a biased way, so that they prove their give their decisions in my favor or in an unfavorable manner. Now there is also, as we have seen, IAS 6 or IFRS 6 actually grants me a temporary exemption from the paragraphs 11 and 12 of my IAS 8. These are exemptions that are specifically given. So that means that if I am following IFRS 6, I can temporarily exempt myself from the paragraphs 11 and 12. Paragraph 11 and 12 are actually very basically it provides you that whatever the sources that I'm using for making a decision on any definition that I'm using to define any of my transaction, the event, if I'm recognizing, what are the criteria that I'm recognizing it in, what are the definitions of my assets and liabilities that I'm providing, and all those, you should have your all these definition of my assets and liabilities, the recognition criteria should be expressed in a framework management in a way that whatever standards and IFRS's other standards, local GAAP, whatever are presented, uh, your recognition and everything should be almost similar to them. You cannot classify an asset from any of the standard setting body different from your any of the standards that are actually set. You cannot just define your asset in a totally new way. So this temporary exemption is given. The only reason this exemption is given is because, as we have seen, that there is a temporary I can deeming my costs to be an asset. I do not have a proper tangible, intangible, defined asset that I have. I am actually deeming my cost to be asset. So of course, it is gonna have contradictions between my paragraph 11, 12 of my IAS 8. That is the only reason a temporary exemption is given from my IFRS 6. Just a moment. Yes. So my errors, there are when I am actually having classifying some costs as my expenditure or any expenditures that I am assigning to my exploration and evaluation of mineral resources as per IFRS 5. There are certain errors in the practice. Over the past few years, these are some of the common errors that have been found. These are not given from the IFRS point of view. There is no mention of these in the IFRS. It is just for your knowledge so that you can easily classify it as an exploration and evaluation expenditure or any other assignable attributable expenditure that we have. So this is just for the information, because these are the simple common errors that people perform in their day-to-day lives while attributing the costs to this IFRS 6. So I've just put down 5 to 6 errors that you can easily differentiate at the time of attribution. Like people usually, in a common error, they capitalize the expenditure before the right to explore. IFRS 6 only permits evaluation and exploration expenditures to be capitalized if specific conditions are met. Expenditures incurred before this stage, that is exploration and evaluation stage, cannot be capitalized. For example, the cost before the entity has obtained legal rights to explore an area. So before I within Mumbai or within India. So that is conferred only to Mumbai state. I cannot go around with that license and start searching for mineral resources at Jharkhand area. So that is a specific area is provided to you, which is special, which is specifically jotted down, written in your license. So any expenditure that I am incurring before I have incurred the license, I cannot capitalize it as per my exploration and evaluation of resources. People usually capitalize or have the problem of capitalizing. They feel it to be as an expenditure that is related to the exploration and evaluation, but it is not as such. When in the prospecting phase, any cost that is incurred in the prospecting phase, that is prior to my exploration and evaluation commencing, it cannot be capitalized. It is attributable to the cost of prospecting. That is a different cost over under mineral resources generation. So it is cost of prospecting and it cannot be capitalized. It is actually a cost that is incurred. It has nothing to be capitalized. It is just, you can say, take it as in revenue. Though it is not provided under IFRS 6, but it is actually the cost of prospecting is revenue and no capital. One of the very extraction cost capitalized is the most common error that is happening. The exploration and evaluation phase is second and extraction is the third. So there are costs that are not very easily attributable or differentiated between my extraction and evaluation. There are certain costs that seem to be and they are not. They are costs that are attributed by extraction. Like for example, exploratory drilling is a part of my exploration. Exploratory drilling is drilling or digging out an area while searching for my mineral resource just to see that whether it is present or not. If I have drilled out so much and I have reached that part where I could extract my resources, start extracting my natural resource, it is cost that is attributable to my extraction part. So it cannot be capitalized under my evaluation and exploration. Whichever cost that are incurred after the technical feasibility of extracting the mineral resource has been proven, then any cost is attributable to the extraction part and not the evaluation part. Development costs, like expenses that are incurred for exploration and evaluation of mineral resources, once in exploration and evaluation is completed, development costs cannot be capitalized on E&E asset. Once I've explored an area and evaluated an area and I've got the feasibility study, viability, that yes, there are mineral resources that are present and it is going to have my commercial viability. And now I am developing that area for the purpose of extraction. I am doing certain things that will develop that area so it becomes good for extraction of my resources. So any development cost that is done, it is not from the exploration and evaluation point of view. In fact, these shall be, when I will be converting this amount as per my IAS 16 or IAS 38 of tangible and intangible assets, I'll be recording these costs in them and not here, because these are exploration evaluation costs that are capitalized are costs only for those stages, only for that stage. Development cost does not form the part of that stage. Under certain countries, in fact most of the countries like China, India, they have a provision whenever they provide you a license. They provide you license on the condition that after you've extracted your resources and all those resources extraction is done, after that you shall be restoring, reclaiming the site where you have actually uh, pro you where you've actually started and you've done that extraction of mineral resources. On that side, you should rather restore it back to the productivity stage. To the productivity stage means, of course, you cannot keep the resources back at the place. You cannot keep them there, but you can restore it, reclaim it in a way that it becomes productive in certain years. Like usually, the usual things that are followed are afforestation. You've done some water problem, some water flowing or something like that. Problems that are there after my extraction is done. Usually there are water logging or water clogging problems that form when mines are dug out. So I should rather restore them back. So that amount shall be written down as a provision for restoration, and that amount shall be recognized at the time of my exploration is taking place. So my provision for restoration shall be recognized. And then there are various overhead costs. The overhead cost cannot be capitalized. Overhead costs that are ancillary costs that are actually I am having. I am not going to capitalize that also under exploration. Only those costs that are attributable directly to my exploration activities can be done. Overhead costs cannot be like for that. Let's say my exploration and evaluation wing is different. Overhead cost for that uh, attributable to my exploration and evaluation wing comes down to be 20,000. It is a normal revenue expenditure that is happening. It is not a capitalized cost that is taking place. So that overhead cost of 30,000 or 20,000, whatever is that, I cannot capitalize it. Now coming down to impairment. Because of the difficulty that is in happening in obtaining the information that is necessary to estimate the future cash flows from exploration and evaluation assets, impairment is important. IFRS 6 modifies the rules of IAS 36. As IFRS 6 has modified quite a conceptual frameworks, and now it is also modified certain rules of IAS 36 in regarding to the circumstances in which the assets are required to be assessed as impairment or assessed for impairment. For that reason, an impairment test should be done. First, when the technical feasibility and commercial viability is done of extracting a mineral resource, it becomes demonstrable, at which point the asset falls under the scope of IFRS 6, is classified in the financial statement, and when the fact and circumstances suggest that the assets carrying value, that whatever the cost that I have capitalized, the carrying amount is exceeding or it might exceed with its recoverable amount. My recoverable amount that I estimated at the starting point was, let's say, 1 lakh, and the cost that I attributed for that whole process was 70 to 80,000, or for the whole process of resource generation is 70 to 80,000, or 90,000 or something like that. But after this, while this whole process was going on, my recoverable amount due to any reason in the market came down to 80 or 85,000. Then I shall perform the impairment test, and I'm going to provide for impairment losses. there are certain facts and circumstances that are specifically included. It has provided as certain examples that are included under my IFRS 6 and that are indicated for impairment testing. The first one is capitalizing. Then it is unbudgeted expenses, lack of my commercial viability as in the amount in the market, commercial market, and where my cost is more than recovery. These are the certain examples that are specifically provided under IFRS 6, though they are not exhaustive, but they are provided out here. Let's look at them one by one. Under capitalizing, substantive expenditures on further exploration for and evaluation of mineral resources in the specific area, like capitalizing, I've capitalized certain amounts at the time of providing for my exploration and evaluation cost. But after some time, due to certain reasons, the recoverable amount becomes less, or my recovery in the market, that resource, from that resource, the amount that I'm going to generate becomes gets to a point. So the capitalizing, the cost and everything needs to be seen. Also, the capitalizing includes, like, let's say my license to explore in an area was for 2 years. It expired on 31st of March 2020. And on 31st of March, that license to explore in that area expired. Now, of course, it is very evident that in the present scenario, I might not be able to renew that license again. So any cost that has actually been attributed after 31st of March, I am not going to capitalize those costs into my asset value. Any amount that is incurred, any cost that is incurred after 31st of March 2020, I am not going to capitalize that amount in my exploration and evaluation expenses. The reason being because my license to explore in that area has expired and I do not see a near future when I'll be renewing that license. Unbudgeted expenses, any expenditure that whenever I am going through a process of mineral resources generation, or if I am doing any financial resource generation, financial asset acquisition, something that I am doing, of course, I plan and budget that thing. If even I am purchasing a building as an asset for my organization, I plan and I budget for that so that it is within my budget or it is exceeding the budget that I have planned for that building. Similar is the case with my exploration and evaluation costs that are attributable to my mineral resource generation. There are certain expenditures that you did not expected that might have that might come over at the time of budgeting for that mineral resource generation, exploration and evaluation. So all those substantive expenditures, if they have been capitalized, because of course they were done and they were incurred at the time of my exploration and evaluation, but they were unbudgeted. That is the reason I am having an impairment test review. Then is lack of commercial viability. It might happen that I have done my exploration, I have done my evaluation activities, I've incurred cost, attributed those costs in my exploration and evaluation asset. But now the commercial viability of that particular asset do not seem to exist. Now it is not commercial viable for me to extract that resource and sell it in the market or use it for my own use if I was using it as a raw material for my any other output activity or in a certain process. But now it is not commercially viable viably possible for me to do that. So impairment review needs to be done, and you should provide for the impairment losses as per IAS 36. And then cost is more than recovery, which is the base for my IAS 36 impairment of assets, that whenever the cost of an asset increases the recovery amount or the recoverable amount, then I shall perform an impairment test and should provide for my impairment losses. When such circumstances or any similar circumstances arise, the entity is necessarily requiring to assess the affected assets for impairment. That is in accordance to IAS 36. Subject to special requirements with respect to the level at which impairment is assessed. Impairment is necessary. The effect of impairment, the level of impairment, the amount for impairment loss provision definitely depends on my management and my CFO or the finance department, experts that are actually judging the impairment levels. But since IFRS 6 is providing me flexibility, so it is also allowing a great degree of flexibility as per IAS 6 as regards to this level of impairment assessment, allocation of exploration and evaluation assets to cash generating units or group of units for the purpose of assessing such assets for impairment can be determined as a matter of accounting policy by the individual entity. They are not providing you with a threshold limit or the amount that shall be impaired. It will totally depend on the entity that is performing the impairment laws and whatever the accounting policy that they are following. Now we have come down to the presentation and the disclosure requirements that are in the IFRS 6 standard provided by IASB. Entities are required to classify the exploration and evaluation assets as tangible or intangible, as we've already seen. After I have deemed my costs to be asset, I will be classifying them as per my IAS 16 tangible cost or IAS 38 intangible cost according to the nature of the asset, of course. As IAS 8 paragraph 10 is followed, anything that is done should be relevant and reliable, and it should have certain material explanation as to why was it done. If I'm treating any of my exploration and evaluation asset as tangible, then why am I treating it as an tangible asset, and why am I treating it as an intangible asset? They should be clarified and they should be put down in the disclosures for the users of such financial information people. Examples of assets that are classified as tangible assets can be like drilling rigs, vehicles that are used for the exploration. All those can be done as financial tangible assets. Intangible assets can include the licenses and the rights that I have obtained. Under exploration and evaluation also, any right or license that I have obtained are intangible, which are usually also classified as intangible assets. But if I'm using a vehicle for exploration, I have a drilling rigs that I am using for drilling, exploratory drilling if I am using. Then drilling machines that are used, they can be classified as my vehicles that are tangible assets. So this is the differentiation that is provided, and clarifications on these should be provided in your disclosures. Once the technical feasibility and commercial viability of extracting a mineral resource becomes demonstrable in the sense that I have demonstrated, I have got that the technical feasibility and the commercial viability is successful if I extract that mineral resource. Any previously recognized, the previous step is of course exploration and evaluation that falls down under IFRS 6. So all this exploration and evaluation asset falls outside the scope of IFRS 6 and is again reclassified rather in accordance with other relevant standard, whatever is the relevant standard that shall be applied after after exploration and evaluation process is completed. All those assets shall be reclassified. I cannot put those assets to at the same place complying with the same standard IFRS 6. Assets shall be assessed for impairment and any impairment loss recognized before reclassification, which is done in usual business. Now, presentation and disclosure requirements are the only thing that are provided in IFRS 6 that are in accordance or that are similar to the other standards that are provided by IASB. Rest, it has given quite a lot flexibility to the people, to the entities that are applying IFRS 6. Enough liberalism is shown by the IASB for the people, for the entities, those who are complying with IFRS 6, because they haven't shown any specific requirements. They haven't provided for a specific policy, accounting policy to be followed. No cost model is issued. Nothing is done. They are actually asking us or asking the entities who are complying with the IFRS 6 to take down the similar accounting policy, similar accounting model, cost model that they were following immediately before applying IFRS 6. No changes needs to be done. So this is the most liberal standard of all that are provided, that is provided from the IASB side. Now, there are certain disclosures that are specifically provided that needs to be disclosed with your financial statements. Now, in order to comply with these disclosures, the entity's accounting policies for exploration and evaluation expenditures, including the recognition of my exploration and evaluation assets, shall be disclosed properly in my financial statements disclosures. The policy that I am following, if there is a change that I have undertaken in the accounting policy after applying IFRS 6, then that change of policy shall also be noted down in the disclosure. That shall also be disclosed along with a specific explanatory, reasonable, weighted reason for why there a change, a transition was done in my existing accounting policy. The second specific disclosure that is done is the amount of my asset, liability, income, expense, operating, investing, cash flows that are arising from my exploration and evaluation of mineral resources. What is those amount? How have I come down to those amount? If I have assets of exploration and evaluation, why is that amount shown in the asset? Why is that amount shown or attributed as a liability? Why is that expense not capitalized and treated as a revenue expense? All those amount classification and their reasonable explanations shall be given under the disclosures. Exploration and evaluation assets will be treated as a separate class of asset for disclosure purposes. So these are the disclosures and presentation purposes or presentation requirements that needs to be followed once I am done with my extraction or exploration, or for that reporting periods for which I have been doing extraction and exploration of mineral resources. So this was all from the IFRS 6. As I've told you, it is the most liberal standard that is provided by IASB. It doesn't ask you to perform or carry out a particular cost model, to carry out certain transactions in a specified way. It doesn't ask you to change your policies, existing policy, or any currency matters maybe. It is just asking you to follow IFRS 6, provide the disclosure and capitalize the cost. These are the only three things that is asked by the IASB while giving IFRS 6. Of course, there are further classifications of the extraction point, restoration point of my extraction of an evaluation, exploration of my mineral resources. There are various stages. The other stages are also undertaken by the IASB to provide a standard for that. But until then, IFRS 6 is the only standard for that purpose. So any questions from this standard on today's presentation or anything, of course, you can put them forward.